There we go. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Comics for All. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name is Jameson. I'm your host here at Comics for All. I'm a comics librarian. And Comics for All, if you don't know, is where comics, creativity, and community all connect. Today is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. As part of our interview series called Ink and Insight, we interview people involved with comics from all over the place. And as you can see, we have a guest today, Trish Forstner, who is a comics creator and artist extraordinaire. But Trish, how is your Thursday going?
Great. Had a good 8 hours at work, 9.5 maybe, I guess, by the time I clocked out, but here I am, ready to go.
Yay, love to hear that. Well, as a librarian, I'd like to ask a couple reader-centric questions to kick everything off. But Trish, when did you start seeking out comics to read?
When I was a kid, because I was more into like cartoons, I bought comics that were more cartoon focused. So I
Same.
bought like Alvin and the Chipmunks was a cute like that Harvey had like 5 issues, but they've always been around like Dell and stuff like that. Um, and I've been seeking those out for reasonable prices, but a lot of Disney Afternoon books, the original run,
Hmm.
um, any of the like Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons comics, those types of things. I loved those books.
Yeah,
So
those are
those were
really
the ones
fun.
those were the ones I sought out because I didn't think I could ever draw like, Captain America or like, whatever, whoever was big at the time, Batman, you know,
Hmm.
Spider-Man. I really kind of wasn't like I thought those were kind of like, you know, very, you know, not to gender anything, but it was like those were the boys' books, you know what I mean?
Right, that totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kind of the natural follow-up. When did you have the realization for yourself as a teen or adult that you wanted to be part of the people who create and make comic books?
So I always knew I wanted to do something creative with my art, whether it was working in animation or illustration or comics. I didn't know that comics was something for me
Right.
until I was much older. And I was working for a convention called BronyCon, and they were inviting the My Little Pony comic artists to the show, and I was like, wait a minute, I think that they're like other stuff too. Like I can draw other stuff too. Surely I could do this.
Yeah.
Surely. So, so I started like emailing blindly into the void. So it was probably maybe 2018, 2019 when I was like emailing into the void trying to get cover work
Hmm.
with My Little Pony. That's where I started. And then Tony and I met at a show at BronyCon one year, and he pitched me Stray Dogs, the first issue, and he asked me if I could draw like that all the time, and I was like, yes, I can. And so we kind of, met up in that respect. I was a fan of his anyway, so it was kind of
Hmm.
like really cool. And it would be really cool since I had never done anything sequential before to learn under someone who's been doing it,
Right.
this whole time. So it was really cool to kind of, learn and work and twist my skills around a little bit and draw something other than cartoon ponies, you know,
Totally.
for a while. Yeah.
Well, I know not everybody has a lot of free time to read, especially as a creative person, but have you got to read anything, comics or otherwise, that has stood out to you recently ish?
I'm reading Dork and I'm
Hmm.
reading Dungeon Crawler Carl. So
Ooh, very
like
hot.
yeah, right. So like those are the things that I pick up. And also they're kind of like in my niche too, because they're not like your typical like superhero like
Yes.
thing. They're kind of like anti, you got like an anti-hero thing happening, and then you've kind of got nerd culture kind of rolling in there. Which I think is really cool. Plus Dork, like the cartoon style of it, leans more into where I live. Like that
Yes.
exaggerated, very cartoony, like very reminiscent of like 80s and 90s cartoons style for me. Um,
I'm just
yeah,
waiting for it to for the announcement that it's going to be an animated television show. 'Cause I feel like it's like perfect for that.
it, it's probably coming. Like judging by how fast things are moving on that thing, like and how many printings and how many, you
Hmm.
know, how many versions there are of everything. I just I only wanted to get on it while it was not necessarily. I wanted to get in on it while it was new, and I didn't like fall completely off the wagon. I read like, of course I read Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. That's a great book.
Oh my gosh.
It was fantastic. I was super inspired. I did a cover for that too, not too long ago. Well, I guess it was when it was first out. It was a second printing, or it was like a reprinting of number one, and it was a very cute cover. Um, but I love that book, so I wanted to get on it. And Patrick Horvath is so nice. Like everybody in comics, it's like one big small like town.
Yep.
You know, everybody knows everybody.
That's so true. Well, kind of an industry more question. What is exciting or kind of positive to you about right now on the creative front and on the reading/consuming front in 2026?
I feel like comics hasn't felt like this since right after COVID. Like
Mm-hmm.
right after COVID, everybody was so hungry to be out there in the world again and get good stories and like get books in their hands again. And so like that's when Stray Dogs kind of took off and was hot. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And so I'm seeing that now for books like Dork and Dungeon Crawler and uh, Absolute Batman, stuff like that. People lined up for these creatives just around the building. And it's I love it for them. I love it for us. I love it as an industry. That makes me feel good that what we're doing, you know, makes people feel something.
That's right.
And we may hurt their feelings, like with our book. We
Yeah,
may hurt your feelings, but you keep coming back to us. You must, you know, it, I think people like it because there's a lot of layers to it. You know what I mean?
that's right.
And
And the numbers don't lie. People are reading more comics than ever before.
it's not just for kids. Like the kids that we were when we were buying comics are now grown-ups with our own money. And now
Uh-huh.
we can do the things that we wanted to see when we were kids, so that's kind of like I love seeing that come full circle. It's not just like a golden age or a bronze age. We've got this like new, I don't know what you want to call it, modern age
Mm-hmm.
comics. um so I think it's great. I think it's constantly evolving and never the same. Like
Very
even
much so.
even when you hear things like AI and technology being brought in, a lot of people are against that anyway. So, I don't fear that. I feel like people will always want the human touch, the human element to comics and what it means in storytelling.
That's right. Well, I'm with you, and we're going to dive right into your stuff here. So, Stray Dogs is the first one we're going to touch on. Obviously, it's got a great thematic feel to it. It's got an adorable surface, but emotionally brutal underneath. How did you kind of balance that tonal contrast without tipping too far? Because I feel like the art doesn't. It gives you an insight of what's going on, but it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't tip in terms of the plot. It doesn't give any plot points away.
So, Stray Dogs to me in my brain did what I wanted to see out of like The Secret of Nim, or out of
Yeah,
like All Dogs Go to Heaven. All Dogs
Watership
Go to
Down.
Heaven is yeah, water like it gives you that like gritty realism, but with a soft exterior to
Hmm.
soften it. You feel safe, but you know it's not. And so like The Secret of Nim, if you think about that story too hard, you know there's talking rats from a lab facility. They're out there and there's some magic involved too. Like that was never really explained. I'm like, how does this magic happen? But
Right.
you got sword and sorcery and all kinds of stuff. All dogs go to heaven. We see that dog die twice. He dies twice, and everybody's just like, okay, it's for kids. Here, little Johnny, go sit there and watch that TV. Just because it's got some singing dogs in it. So I mean, there is a balance. Um, and I think we kind of drew from that. Like we just kind of turned the creep factor up to like 10 or 11.
Hmm.
Whereas stories like Don Bluth told were be like an 8. You know,
That's a good way to put
cuteness
it.
is at a 10. Yeah. So like you're walking a fine line, but like we needed it to be a little bit scarier. So we got that, we did what we wanted those movies to do back then.
That's right.
Go a little
Um,
dark.
and a fun question for you on the kind of on the back end of things. What was your visual approach to making each dog feel like a distinct character rather than just a type of dog?
So in horror movies, you kind of have tropes for
Hmm.
characters. Like you've got the jock, you've got, you know, the final girl. the small one, the sassy one. So like we picked out dogs that would fit these types of tropes. And then to round them out, things that I kind of wanted to draw. Like we wanted a big dog that kind of did nothing. So I was just like, let's look at some couch-sized dogs, like
Mm-hmm.
some, sofa-sized critters and just pick the one that looked the meanest. But or could be the meanest, but on the surface just looked like a giant teddy bear. That's
Right.
Imogene, you know what I mean? Or Earl. We knew that like Earl needed to be like a curmudgeon and with all those like wrinkles, the
Mm-hmm.
hound dog was like cool, like an easy thing to play with. We needed Gucci, the sassy one, but she was kind of ugly. She's just a diva, but she's just like kind of the ugliest dog there. Um, but it was just kind of like we like to play with those types of things, like flip one thing opposite. Um, we based a couple of the dogs on our personal dogs. Like
Mm-hmm.
Roxanne was based on my dog Eve. Other Henry was based on Tony's dog at the time. You might see my dog. Excuse me. Speaking of him, there he is
Well, hello.
making his debut. That's Cloud. If you give me 1 second, let me put him in his crate. Go in your
Sure.
crate, sir. He can't be barking through the whole phone. Okay. Otherwise, he'll do that the whole time. I love him so much, but he is a chatty man. Okay, so um, picking the dogs out, we knew we needed a little dog that was kind of sprightly, like cute but could be shy, but that had a lot of expression. So we played with a couple of different types of dogs, but I was just like, I'm obsessed with Papillons because they're just so cute with their giant
Mm-hmm.
ears and they just look so like frail. So we needed, a small dog that was kind of like timid, you know, that could be that, and so that's how Sophie came to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, something small, innocent, sweet looking, but also could be very tenacious. They're kind of like little hunters. So, you know, we we picked that. We needed a strong, rugged dog that was kind of you know, like a leading man type. So that's kind of how Rusty was brought in. Um, Killer the pug. We needed some comedy relief. Pugs are funny to
Right.
me. They're hilarious. So Killer, Aldo, those two, my favorite little duo. Um, then we needed, our hero fire dog. We had like the fire dog was a planned out thing, but I was just like, do we go with the stereotype and pick a Dalmatian? Yes, of course we do. Because, why not? And Victor is great.
Oh yeah. If you can give us a little insight and kind of working with Tony on kind of pacing and emotional beats versus kind of those aha shocking moments, those turn page moments. Kind of how did you and Tony kind of work back and forth and approach that?
Already had Stray Dogs outlined beat to beat. Like when he pitched it to me, Stray Dog was already like, I'd say 50% done in his
Wow.
hands.
Okay.
Like he was already writing it, he was already like noodling on it and figuring it out. Um and when he pitched it to me, I, I was dead set I had to be involved. It didn't matter. Like it blew me away. I'm sitting there. I remember sitting there at the convention when he pitched me the first issue and I was just like blown away, mind blown. And so I immediately my brain is already whirling with ideas. So as soon as I get back from that show, I'm already chucking him like text message pictures of these little 3x3 post-it notes that I'm like drawing on. And there are funny things like since he already had the story mostly lined out, like outlined and kind of the beats were already there, um, we couldn't like stop the momentum of the story to tell you a joke about,
Right.
to lighten the mood about a dog finding a leg bone in the yard. So that's how Dog Days was born. So we kind of like thought of some like cool stories that could be turned creepy by based on just the dogs being dogs and the, just the creepiness already being in the background of your mind. Um so that was fun bringing Dog Days into it.
Yeah.
But I would do things in the background with the different dogs. So like, there's a very intense scene where they're all kind of, fighting with each other, but in the background, like Killer and Aldo are fighting over a toy, you know,
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
or like, in the background of a very somber scene, they're bagging up the master and Killer's over there peeing on him. Like Being on the body bag. Like that was those were my ideas. That was my contribution to the story. Like little things that got to happen in the backgrounds of these things.
Love
Um,
that.
because they were already kind of, the beats were already in place. So I just had to add the life to the characters. So we already had like the character archetypes. I just had to help design them and bring them to life, which I think, we worked together on very closely and we hit it right out of the park. I was very happy with those designs. The first designs were crazy because he just we picked out a bunch of like real dogs and we were just kind of put them in this lineup and we're like, this looks like a motley group of dogs. Let's just, let's figure this out. And so we switched out a couple of dogs and we were going to design a puppy at one point. We were going to have like him bring another dog in after Sophie. That ended up not happening, but it
Okay.
was a golden retriever puppy, if I remember correctly. I still have the designs for that guy, but like that one made me sad too because I was just like, oh no, it's a baby. You can't have him abduct a child. That's crazy.
Well, it goes right into my next question for Stray Dogs, which is there any particular scene in the 5 issues of Stray Dogs either that was particularly difficult to draw, either technically or emotionally?
Okay, so I was never a horror buff. I knew your big ones like your Freddy's and your Jasons and your
Yep.
Stephen Kings, and I knew of the biggies in the industry, right? I was traumatized by Nightmare on Elm Street as a child, just like everyone else.
Oh my gosh.
It's a rite of passage. We all see Johnny Depp. He goes into the bed and then the blood shoots out like that in my head forever. But like, so I'm not like into horror as a genre, so it was a little uncomfortable. But we don't really do anything crazy in Stray Dogs, as you see. There's not a lot of blood per se until the very end. So any of the blood to me looks very unnatural because
Hmm.
I never was drawing it like that. I was never drawing it at the time. So it looks very stiff and unnatural to me. Those were hard to do. The hardest panel for me to draw was the panel where the master takes Victor outside
Ooh,
with that.
yeah.
And I was like, we are either going to lose everyone and they are going to
Right.
abandon us high and dry on this roller coaster, or they are going to love us. And it turned out to be the exact opposite of what I was thinking. Like they loved us, and people were like, I hate you so much, but keep doing this. How many more issues are there? When's the next one out? And so that panel, though, Bambi's mom, or like, old Yellering,
Hmm.
poor Victor, like that hurt my heart so bad. Like that hurt my feelings. But like, because he was just like my child, I'm just like, oh no, my baby, I created him. He was barely, 2 years old by the time that issue came out.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
I mean, we worked on that book for a good long time before the books ever came out. So it was because I had to work on it in my spare time and I had never done it. So I was moving very slowly. But,
Hmm.
there wasn't a rush at the time.
Absolutely. Well, we'll go into Feral next, which is kind of like its spiritual cousin, is what I like to call it, but
Mhm.
also very much its own thing as well. What did you want to kind of push further or do differently with Feral that you didn't get to do with Stray Dogs?
Literally everything. So
Yep.
the difference in Feral and Stray Dogs is like Stray Dogs is very contained. It's like a bottle episode. They're tucked inside this house. These dogs don't leave this house until the very end. You know, everything is, about the house. So like we wanted to get out in the world. What's the opposite of dogs? Cats. What's the opposite of being closed in a house? Being out in the world.
Yep.
And then what else is in the world? Everything. So everything was the enemy and everything was in your face and very like intense. And zombie horror is definitely not my genre. Like you can tell from the early issues of Feral, um, early on, the gore and the horror is very stiff because I'm not used to drawing them. And as we progress, 25 issues later,
Hmm.
it's just flowing out of me now. I'm just like, I can't believe I've drawn this. Like, this is some of the scariest stuff I've drawn ever. And but my brain has to separate it. It has to go. It's just cartoon violence. It's fine. Like, I'm not. crazy for doing what I'm doing to these cats or these animals or whatever. Because there's a variety of animals that are zombies in this. But
That's
like,
right.
you know, um, so this story's more intense. It's more in your face. It, which is very different than what Stray Dogs was. Stray Dogs was very layered and cerebral and very
Mm-hmm.
thought provoking. Like, how messed up is it that this guy, this random dude who looks like anybody, just kills people and takes their dogs? That's crazy. So, um, what motivates him was never the story. We didn't care. He's just, he's a bad guy.
That's
So,
right.
you need to make a bad guy. You need to make someone who's irredeemable. Every good story has a good villain, you know? And I feel like we have a lot of villains in Feral because, you know, everything's against you in this book.
That's right.
But, we had to make that guy like irredeemable in Stray Dogs. Like we did not care about him at all. He was the worst. So,
Well,
yeah,
another artistic question: how do you approach kind of depicting animal behavior in a way that feels, grounded, but still kind of supports the story, but not like you said. There's still some comedic moments from time to time, but how do you kind of approach the animal behavior without making it feel like you can't? It doesn't feel
too
natural in a sense,
cartoony.
but your behavior feels very natural.
So, okay, so I learned what I learned in character design and acting and stuff like that from animation. So like I was a student of animation back in the day. I've learned from people like Don Bluth,
Hmm.
acting and just feeling things, watching other people draw. My inspirations were from animation. So, of course, I lent that to Feral and Stray Dogs, of course. So, you can show fear, yes. That's 90% of what we do. Fear. But then you can also push it and show terror, you know.
Hmm.
So finding the right times to push it and finding the right times to ease back, those are the things that I get to flex in, you know, when they're
Love
when
that.
they're talking back and forth, or if there's something fast paced going on, like finding the middle ground expression in between, you know, to convey what they're doing. I like that the characters feel more human, even though they're all very
Hmm.
feline. Like, we don't play with the memory thing with the cats so much because cats are more, you know, are treated more humane, like more human like.
They are
They hold grudges, they remember things,
more
they'll push you
cerebral.
down yeah, they're more thoughtful. They'll push you down the steps sooner than look at you, and they're very self-serving. So, or they're portrayed as very self-serving, or a lot of people think their cats are very selfish or whatever. Like,
That's right.
serve me, peasant, is what my sister says her cats in her monologue is. So I think that we treat the cats and the dogs very differently. And so their acting and mannerisms also are very different. And also, I have a dog. So, I see when he's happy. I know what he looks like when he's happy.
Right.
And,
You have a
cats are
real
a little
life
bit
reference
harder to
point.
read. Yeah. But cats are a little bit harder to read in that regard because cats
Hmm.
are often indifferent. Um, but there are behaviors for them that you can kind of learn from and push a little bit more to show that they're happy or sad or whatever they're feeling.
That's
Tail
right.
behavior mostly in ears. But
Another good creative question on the back end of things.
hmm,
Can you share some creatively freeing parts of working on Feral in comparison to some of the earlier stuff you've gotten to work on?
oh, well, I mean, definitely Feral and Stray Dogs is like playing in my own sandbox. So
Hmm.
like I can do what I want with these characters. I don't have like a list of things to adhere to or rules because it's my sandbox. These are
Yep.
my rules. So I get to play with them the way that I want. But like when you're doing licensed stuff, you have to abide by their stuff. So like, I can't draw Darkwing Duck with a gun because, they said like you can't do that. Couldn't even have his gun. So, no weapons.
Oh
Or
man.
yeah, you have to like abide by the license holder's rules. So like when we were doing Stray Dogs and Feral covers, when people would ask us if they could play with our toys and do their own covers, yes, you can. But you had to follow our rules, which they couldn't wear costumes. They couldn't hold anything in their hands. Like you couldn't a cat won't be able to hold a pen.
Right.
or like hold a sword or hold a knife. Um, but you could like put accessories on them, like the way a cat would wear a scarf or, a costume, like costumes for animals. You could
Right.
do it that way. So you'll notice like a lot of our covers, the cats aren't wearing any outfits. They're just kind of posed in what those covers are. So like if you've seen any of the horror movie poster covers, I've got one
Yes.
right here.
There we
So
go.
like yeah. So like the cats aren't wearing any outfits, but like in the normal cover of this would be people running away, and they'd be wearing clothes, and there's people back here, and there were zombies in the background, but we got zombie animals. But of course, it's the same. It's the same idea. So on anybody else's cover, they would have to abide by our rules. We say cats don't wear clothes, they don't hold things, and they most certainly aren't um, you know, to be distorted too much.
That's right.
So, yeah. But that's it. I mean, the difference is I like playing with my toys. I love playing with other people's toys. I give them right back. Like I got to do that dork cover.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. I got to lean into a little bit of cartoony stuff and I got to give that back, and and say like this is my contribution to that universe. Or like Darkwing Duck and getting to do that stuff. Fantastic. This is my contribution to that. I tried to be as on model with that as possible because you're working with actual like Disney people,
Mm-hmm.
and those people are like sticklers for that stuff. Knowing your people, My Little Pony, just like that. They let us have a little bit of artistic influence in ours, which was really fun to get to like put my artistic spin on their product
Right.
and have it be considered somewhat official. You know what I mean?
That's right. Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of Feral, without spoilers, as best you can, what themes are you excited to readers to dig into this current arc 25, 26, 27?
So we've been like showing these cats paths coming together and diverging and
Mm-hmm.
coming together and splitting off again and again, and we're trying to uh like in my brain, it's about finding yourself and figuring out how you fit into the dynamic of your family or like
Mm-hmm.
your pack or this group that you're with. So and contributing to that. So like you'll see in as this arc ends and we get into the next arc, some more character building will start happening. And you'll start seeing like to me it's almost more like redemption because, for the first 5 arcs, Elsie's literally been the worst.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I mean, I can remember just writing to Tony and just saying like, "Elsie, come on, girl. Why are you opening doors again?" Like, you know, we're just back and forth with each other. And I mean, like, she's really not that bad. Like, this last 2 arcs, she's been okay. But, like, you're starting to see her turn around. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're starting to see her arc curve. And I love that for her. Like, I like seeing good, round characters in our stories. So we're getting that finally for her. She's not just a failure. you know, she's not just like the worst. Um, so we're starting to see that come back to fruition for her. And maybe as we go along, those things continue to improve for her. Obviously, the world is a shambles. So, these poor cats are just trying to figure their way through it. And they're cats. They're not, where they are now is not where they will be in the next arc. They're going to keep going and changing. You may lose some along the way, and some people aren't, or some cats aren't safe, and some are. And you know, it's just I don't know. As we go along, though, togetherness is more like my theme. Like that's where I'm kind of like I like seeing them come together. I like seeing the character dynamics play off of each other, and I like seeing them discover things about themselves too. Like Lord is only kind of like moderately autistic when we need him to be, but like you know, and I don't say that derogatorily. Like he will sometimes just scream for no reason or be like, just this beacon of like loudness for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes he's just very stoic and very kind of in the background and just vibing on what's going on there. He doesn't want to be forgotten. He doesn't want to be left behind, you know? And so he has to be loud and stand out and be audacious. And he, you know, and I like where his story's going too. Like he's just kind of made this whole arc, which has been really fun.
Love
But he
that.
comes out when I need him. Like, and we have to remember, like, he's the only one that doesn't have claws this whole time, so
Hmm.
he has special accommodations that need to be made. And we've got our deaf cat Ghost, and Ghost has just been this like crazy badass through this whole thing. He don't know what's going on hardly. He just knows that the vibe is bad. And so he's
Yep.
just, I gotta fight these guys, or else, I gotta save my friend and I gotta fight these guys. So, you know, I love the vibes uh that Ghost has and Moosh. I like they can't talk to each other, but they still somehow understand each other, you know.
Yes.
Um that's been fun to play with too.
Totally. And the series is continuing. So everybody out there, if you're still reading the series, go ahead and ask your LCS to order copies. We're going to get into your variant work now, which I don't think a lot of people get to see a lot of your variant work. I feel like they're incredibly expressive. There's a great variety. Each one kind of tells a little story. What is your approach when you really only get like kind of one image to work with? How do you kind of like this Freak on a Leash homage? How did you kind of your approach on that one?
So when the shop asked me to do that, this comes from Bird City. They're longtime friends of mine. So whenever they ask me to do anything, I usually will be able to drop what I'm doing and kind of, kick them out a nice
There you
thing.
go.
So whenever a new book comes along that they're excited for, and they always like to try and use me if they can, if my style fits what it is. So they came to me with this because this is kind of like an old comic book style. It's Greg Capullo's like early work.
Yep.
So, and I didn't know that at first. I learned something doing this. So like, but this is kind of like right around the time I started really drawing. So like to me, this would be like an old pencil scribble that kind of like was very blurry, and then you scan it and then you refine it a couple of times because like the texture work was really hard on it. I seem to remember doing, but that was really fun to kind of go backwards and do things the way that I would have done them back in 1997 or 1998, whenever this originally came out. Finding the original artwork for it was very hard.
I'm
Like,
sure.
because there's like a big version of it, like for the wraparound for the CD, and then there's like a poster version that's kind of like this.
More vertical. Okay.
Yeah, more vertical. And then there's an even narrower version. So I figured I would take some liberties with it because it was a little girl running toward the edge of that cliff. And so, of course, they wanted the bunny because of the Rascal Randy comic,
Yep.
which that's great. But I added the blood because it's a murder. Like Exquisite Corpse is about he's a murderer. So,
Yep.
you know,
It's a
I
horror
figured I would
title.
add that. Right. Exactly. And then we've got the fox mask killer down there. I made one of the kids the fox mask killer just because I wanted to drag in that Exquisite Corpses element.
Hmm.
Um and which I thought they would have kicked back on that, but they didn't. So,
Love that.
it was bright pink at first. I did change that because I was like, it takes away from the bunny, to be
Right.
honest. But like
Uh,
figuring out like the old school methods of like coloring, the like what Photoshop CS1 version of coloring was crazy. Crazy.
well, kind of a fun question on the back end, especially when you're working on variant covers. What is your personal preference? Do you prefer kind of having some strict direction that you know what you're going to work with, or do you kind of like have that freedom to experiment?
So if you know Feral and Stray Dogs, you know that we are known for our horror movie poster covers.
Hmm.
Most people who ask me to do covers want me to do homage covers. They want me to do something within that box. And to
Right.
me, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. I'm not going to, you know, do whatever I want with the art and then just make sure the text is right. I'm going to do the art and the font work the same way. I'm going to create the logos the same way that they would have been back in whenever the original piece was done, as that dork cover there was. It was
Love
a
that.
Super Mario Brothers homage. Fantastic. One of my most popular ones. But it's all you know exactly what that is when you look at it. You know exactly what that is. But I've seen others where, you'll look at it and you'll be like, I know what it is because, the composition, but it doesn't look exactly like that, you know.
Right.
I think it's a lot of leaning into it. I mean, the only times I get to do what I want, like, is if I was doing like a series of covers for um like the Disney covers. Those ones they let me do whatever I want. Those ones were great. I had a lot of freedom to kind of make the characters do whatever I want. Just, you're playing within the sandbox. You just got your little action figures out there and you're,
Right.
playing. Like them in the cafe. I had to redraw that like 3 times
Oh
because
man.
yeah, because they had me do, they had me change a bunch of stuff. So like I had to change the way he was holding his cup. I had to change her expression a couple of times, because they didn't want her to look tired or too tired, you know. But you're dealing with licensors. You got to do what they want.
That's
So,
right.
and I mean, I present them sketches and then they tweak and we tweak and then I'll color it and then they'll say, okay, can you try it that way again? It's all collaborative. So, but yeah, getting to play with other people's stuff is great. I like it when people let me do my own thing because there's 2 different dork covers too. There's one where I got to do my own thing, and then
Hmm.
there's that Nintendo one, the one where I got to do my own thing. The only other thing that was different was that I overlaid some like text over it, so it looked like a Pokemon trading card.
Ah, okay.
So, but the art is like my own composition that I put together.
Love that.
Mhm.
This is a fun question too. Is there a variant cover that you've done that you didn't feel get enough attention, but you're especially proud of that you made it?
There was a Kingdom Hearts cover that I did,
Ooh,
not Kingdom Hearts, what was it for? The Moon Follows Us. It was for The Moon Follows Us, it was a Kingdom Hearts homage. I've only ever seen that book in my hand one time,
wow.
and that book was a good book. Like, I liked the art style in it. It was also one of those stories that, like, didn't have, like a crazy, like, superhero art style. It was very, like, niche. That book was good, and Dark Ride. I did a lot of Disney covers for Dark Ride, which were really, art directed by Tony. So I mean, they were all homage covers too. But that story, Dark Ride, was crazy. I thought it was
Hmm.
cool. It's like, what if Disney was run by, what if Disney was evil? It's just like, well, it is. No, what if it was really evil? Like the main guy was Satan. So like, and they're like, are you sure we're still talking about the same place? Yes.
We are.
Um, yeah. So I mean, like that one didn't get a lot of attention, even though it was great. Um, and that one Kingdom Hearts cover, I literally only ever had it in my hands one time, and you know, I love that cover. It was great. I'd never really done like one with people characters on it. So usually like I do animal covers or like really cartoony guys, but like
Right.
these were people characters, so it really let me stretch my skills a little bit.
Totally. Well, we're getting to our closing section, but still some great questions. Trish, if you can share for us any memorable interactions you've had over the years with fans being appreciative of your work, and or if you have an experience where you met a creator that you were a big fan of.
There's 2, like, not like it's more situational. So like last Heroes Con was a couple weeks ago. And so Brett Beam was there, a lot of like big artists were there. Scotty Young was there. And I'm like, I'm walking around there and I'm like, man, we're basically coworkers. I'm like, I'm gonna go say hi to my colleagues. Like it's just another day at the office. I just thought it
Hmm.
was so funny. I just was laughing about that all weekend. Because everybody else had to like wait in these lines, and I just walk up to Scotty like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" Or I walk up to Brett like, "Hey, how you doing? You guys okay over here?" And
Hmm.
it was just kind of funny. So like, but I'm a big fan of art and artists and creatives too. So of course I'm going around to all my favorites. Like I spotted Jay Lee there, and I've been
Ooh.
a fan of his for years. And I'm just like, hi, you don't know me, but we're basically colleagues. You know, it's just like you're looking at me like, okay. I'm like big fan. Bye. And of course,
Totally.
I'm completely stupid when I meet people that I'm like that I admire. So I just fall all over myself. But then a lot of people will also come up to me, and they'll tell me how much Stray Dogs meant to them, and how much they like, you know, see their dog or their themselves in that story, or like that story got them into collecting books.
Mm-hmm.
or got their wife into collecting books so that they could now collect all of the Batmans that exist or whatever, so that they don't get in trouble. Like we got a lot of people out of trouble. But like the people who come because they want me to draw their pets or memorialize their pets, those people, like that book has really opened the door for people to kind of, you know, hold on to their pets. I did the
Mm-hmm.
same thing when Eve passed away. She was on the cover of one of the Stray Dogs books, and then I put my new dog, right next to her. So they're together
Oh.
on the same book. So it's just like, people do things because they love their pets, and it's kind of just me leaning into it a little bit. But the people who tell me about their pets, every show there's always a handful that'll just tell me, I had this dog since I was, 10, and he's, this dog's 17 years old, and he's basically a sneeze away from a ghost. But, can you please draw him on the front of my book or whatever? Or that their cat or dog made it into the back of the individual issues. You know how we do
Mm-hmm.
those in the back of the individual issues so that people don't think we hate animals.
Right.
But like also we love everybody's pets. I just love looking at those guys back there and those issues. We didn't get to do it in Feral 24 because of how the flip book issue kind of
Mm-hmm.
had to work. But issue 25 is a double issue, so we'll make up for it in there.
Totally. That's a great tease.
Mhm.
Trish, can you share your upcoming convention appearances, store signings, anything in that realm coming up?
Oh, I have a lot. Well, I mean, I'm doing one show a month basically for the rest of the year. I have
Okay.
HersheyCon in Pennsylvania in July. It's July 10th through 12th. Hershey, Pennsylvania, 15 minutes away from Hershey Park. So, come get some books signed and go on a roller coaster or go get some
Hey.
chocolate. That'd be great. Um, then there's August is Four State Comic Con in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. September is Baltimore Comic Con, another big one for me. It's literally in my backyard, so like I can, step out of my house, 15-minute drive downtown.
Love
I'm
that.
there. That's like my home show. I always do well there. Tone Rodriguez is going to be there with me. So that'll be the first show that two of us have been at together since San Diego Comic Con 2 years ago.
Wow.
So that'll be fun. October, I've got a little local uh what is it, like a Halloween book fest called Fright Reads. So my book is a horror book. And of course it's in Halloween time. It would be
Yeah.
silly if I didn't participate. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Um, but that's in Columbia, Maryland, at a hotel. I think it's like, I don't know what hotel. I have to check. But it's like Halloween time. Um, and let's see here. Last one I think I have is in Chattanooga, Tennessee in November. Um, it's looking like Tony's going to be there, and Tone is going to be there.
Very nice.
We're trying to get the whole team together. So like thoughts and prayers for that. And that'll be the first time, if it happens, it'll be the first time all four of us have been together.
Ooh. Well, Brad would be there
So,
too.
yeah. So
Very
it would be
cool.
cool to like get all four of us. Um and then I have Ocean City Comic Con in December, as I always do. I close out the year at Ocean City Comic Con. It's a like semi-local show. They do like a weekend. It's a beach town in the winter.
Yep.
So, it's fantastic. James runs that show. It's great. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I'm doing a little something every month for the rest of the year. Next year is going to be crazy. Team Stray Dogs is going to Belgium.
Mm.
It's going to be wild.
That's
So
exciting.
yeah, that's not until next October. So, but
Still.
yeah, that's a little far in advance.
Well, Trish, where can people find you online and follow along with all the great things you're working on?
Oh, I can be found online. I'm at Trish Forstner on everything: X, Instagram, Facebook, uh, uh,
Threads.
Threads, TikTok. I said TikTok, TikTok. Um, Threads. What's the other one? Blue Sky.
Blue
I'm at
Sky.
Trish
Yep.
Forstner on everything. So I don't post on a lot of them. I post on my Instagram more regularly. So follow my Instagram.
There
Um,
we go.
if you want to catch up with me.
Well, a fun food related question for you. What is your favorite snack or meal to give yourself some energy to work on a project?
Lately, I mean, I've been kind of on like a health journey lately. Kind of boring, I know, but uh, anything with like a lot of grilled chicken. or like rotisserie chicken. Rotisserie
Oh
chicken from
yeah.
Costco, man. Just give me those. Like I'll just take those. I need to get my gains, all that good stuff. Um, but that over a salad, that's fantastic to me.
Yum.
But like snack wise, Doritos has naked Doritos, but it's Cool Ranch flavor. They're good as
Ooh.
heck. I eat that whole bag. I gotta watch myself with them. They're
I have
really
seen
good.
them, but I haven't tried them yet.
They're really good. I mean, they don't taste any different to me than like a regular Dorito. The taco Doritos are my favorite though. Those ones are
Hmm.
the best. I just don't eat those because they have all the like orange dye and all that stuff. The naked ones don't have all the dyes.
That's
But
right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's your jam, go for it. But like, and then as far as sweet stuff, um, if I'm like really need motivation to do anything, I will hold this out as like my if I do the thing I don't want to do, I will get this treat. And there is a lemon bomb donut from Diablo Donuts, which is about 5 minutes from
Yum.
my house. This thing is like a lemon meringue pie, but it's like a half-pound donut.
Oh, that sounds. I'm a sucker for lemon flavored anything, so that sounds so good.
Oh my god, it's so good. They have such good donuts too at that place. It's like 5 minutes from my house. They're like right around the corner. They're fantastic.
Man, that sounds good. Well, Trish, that's been a blast chatting with you today on the show. Is there any last thoughts you would like to share before we go?
Keep reading Feral. We've got a lot of crazy stuff coming up. That double issue next month is gonna blow some people away, I think. Certainly almost crushed me under the deadline for it. So we got a lot of cool covers for it too. I think it's FOCing in like 2 weeks. So
Yep,
yeah, that one will be that one will be a good one to catch up on. And then of course the trade will be out right after that in August. So
that's right.
yeah, other
Well,
than
everybody
that,
out there, thanks for coming on Comics for All today, Trish. It's like I said, it's been great, and thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come on. I really appreciate it.
absolutely. I will talk forever if given the opportunity. Those are
Yes.
because I get ADHD brain sometimes, and I just will start branching and start talking about random stuff. Oh, and this thing, and oh, and that thing. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
do that all the time.
Love that. Well, everybody out there, thanks for sticking with us for 47 minutes. We had an audience the entire time. This has been Comics for All once again, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. And we'll see everybody next time. Take care.